All right, so we're back and we're going to work on the head now. We're going to do the head. Now, for this one, usually there's about 6 parts, the rule of 6, maybe 5, depending. All right, so here they are. So first of all, you can see me from a couple different angles here. Number one is the main cranium, the brain holder. So it's like a big chunk of the circular part of your head. Number two, now, on humans, we don't have that long snout that protrudes because we're a sight-based animal. A lot of animals out there in the world, they have a massive reliance on their sense of smell, so they have a really long snout. We're talking about this part here. That's 2. 3 would be their little nose that kind of is on the end. So 3. 4, it's a part of your jaw that moves up and down. Okay, so 4. 5 is the eyes, and 6 would be the ears. All right, so let's go ahead and give that a try. I think I got it. All right. So now if we remember, we made our neck in the previous video, we made our neck go well into the head, and that's going to pay dividends here. That's what we want. So first of all, number one, the skull, the brain holder, the cranium, I think you would call that. You can see that curve right here. And it's gonna go way back here. You can see that. We want to overlap this completely with the neck. So a lot of overlap. So I'm just going to draw it in the air. And once my hand is comfortable making that shape, again, the bigger, the better. All right, we got 1. 2 is this snout that protrudes significantly in this animal. This needs to be overlapped heavily with the cranium. Don't worry, it's going to look fine when we get into Tinkercad. It looks weird right here, but that overlap is significant. And then you see, I kind of markered over it a little bit. This little nose, this little button nose on the end of there. All right, cool. There's our third shape. Our fourth shape, again, bigger the better. And then make it overlap significantly with the cranium. On mine, this savage boy he's got his wide open. And I'm actually going to have a 7th shape for mine. Mine's a special thing. These large protruding fangs are a special feature that not every animal is going to have. This one definitely should have it. All right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is the ears. You could use triangles. A lot of animals are going to have triangles for ears. But this one seems like ovals are a better or more appropriate choice. I'll try to remember to show you how to make ears for a lot of these animals which are triangular. All right, so we got ears. And then again, most of you don't have this because this is this is what this animal is known for. It's literally named after it. Saber-toothed tiger. So a lot of you won't have this, but I'm going to make these some cones. So they're going to be triangular shaped from a side view. A lot of you are not going to have something that significant, but you might have some teeth, and he's supposed to be looking vicious. I'm actually going to put a couple of little triangles right there too. All right, cool. So let's take a look and we'll get into Tinkercad. Let's do some measurements on these. I almost forgot to measure. All right, so you know what? I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. All right, so that's a lot better, I think. We certainly don't need to see the entire page for this part. All right, so let's start with our head. Just go one by one. Got some stuff to measure here. Again, the longest way across, 42. Move my coffee cup out of the way. And perpendicular to that measurement is about, so it's 42, and this measurement's about 37. 42 by 37, and I'm going to put an arrow there. I know that you think you know them now, but a little bit of an arrow can save you some mistakes there, so I'm just going to do that. It's not too hard to do. All right, so the snout was next. Zero it out. It looks like about that angle. And we got about 23. Perpendicular to that would be about 17. Put an arrow to label it that it's a snout. My little tiny nose. About 6, and let's say 6 by 6. All right. The lower jaw, the part that moves, I think that's what it would be, jaw. 24. 14. Those are bad 4s. I don't know what happened. My 4 writing ability just broke there. Live on camera for everybody to see. Okay, and let's get our... Ooh, I forgot to model the eyes. I didn't even draw those. So there's our eyes. About 4 and 7. 4 by 7 for the eyes. And the ears, I'm going to stick to the shapes first that everybody's going to do, and then I'll get those insane fangs, those saber tooths. 20 by 16. So for the ears, it's 20 by 16. All right, cool. So let's take a look. And again, this is probably just for me, about 21, 7 or 6 maybe. 21 by 6. And then this little triangle is not very big at all. This lower fang is about 7 and 5, 4 probably. I think I made that too big. All right, cool. And it looks like we're ready to jump into Tinkercad and start modeling these things. Let me zoom in a little closer and pause this. Here we go. I'm pretty happy with this other one here, so I'm going to probably get rid of my duplicate copy here. Delete this other one. Grab all of this, duplicate it, and make a new copy with all the legs and everything on there. And again, we might have to tilt this a little bit to interact with the base, but that'll be later on. Let's get that out of the way. And lock our copy so that we don't have to cry and redo everything, because that would be a terrible tragedy, in my opinion. But I would totally make a student do that, even if it's sad. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the cranium, or that skull, or whatever you want to call that shape. Turn our transparency on. 42 by 37, you can see right here for that big shape. For this, I just want to type it in. 42, 37. And you can see this head's definitely needs to be much wider than... Typically the head's going to be wider than the neck. We have to take a guess at it. And you can see the head is definitely tilting forward a little bit. It's tilting towards the front. So let's get a side view. And again, I know I've said it a million times, make sure the cube looks like this, not this. This looks better when we go to look at it and show it off. That looks more realistic. Who cares? Don't use it. It's better that we get a side view and use the right on the view cube. We're going to put this up here. And we're going to tilt that forward to match the angle that's actually shown on the paper. And go back, and what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this overlap, this kind of D shape. You see that little hook down there? That shows me I need to probably go down a little bit. And back. Okay, there's our little hook. That looks pretty good, but you can see his head, the poor thing, it's not aligned correctly. Let's line that up in the middle. Since we're on the 0.1 snap. By the way, the snap grid, every time you reload the document, that's going to reset back to 1. So you might want to change that back to a quarter or 0.1. See if you can get things exactly where you need them. All right. And we might just want to align that with the neck, right? So align tool, click the neck to refer to that, and in the middle. See, I had it off by a little bit. I'm going to grab the rest of this shape actually and lock it so it doesn't change. All right, cool. There's our head. Now that I see that, I feel like that needs to be just a bit lighter or wider. If you hold down Alt, it will widen and keep the middle in one place. There we go. I think that's how wide a saber-toothed tiger's head would be. I wasn't around thousand years ago or whatever, whenever these things were running around. I wasn't around for it, so who knows, but that looks pretty good. We can change that later. All right, let's do the snout. The snout looks a little bit more egg-shaped to me, so I'm going to grab the egg shape. Egg shape. If I regret this later, I can always change it. Let's go to transparent. And it is 23. So the length of it is 23, about like that. And it's 17. And that is going to be way, way too thick. Maybe something like that. We can change that later. Let's lift it up, get a straight on side view by the right in the view cube. And it's definitely tilting down significantly. We can really see that's a downhill tilt to it. That looks pretty good. And again, look at your reference. Like, hey, the halfway point's here. It's definitely above that. So halfway, about like that. And of course, it needs to be aligned. So grab these, line tool, click the head. So that one is the reference point, and click the middle, and it will align it for you in the middle. If it seems too wide, hold down Alt and you can adjust it. Alt makes it scale around the middle. So it does that. Something like that. Now, I don't know, man. I'm looking at this. I feel like this head maybe needs to be a little wider. I don't know. Holding down Alt. All right, so there we go. We have that. Let's put that little cute nose on the end there. It's like is a vicious predator, I think. So might be the last thing you ever see. 6 by 6, and the height would be 6 also. I'm just adjusting that width because I know it's going to be way too wide if I don't. 6. All right, maybe something like that. Obviously, that needs to be moved over. Back about like that, and then way, way up. Now I can see that definitely looks like it's sticking out way too much to me. I know some of these videos are marathons. Thanks for sticking with me. And it looks like it's a little too high. Maybe like that. Okay. I'm going to do the fangs last. And I look at this, I think this whole chunk is just a little bit high. I'm going to grab both of those. Bring it down a bit. All right. And finally, his jaw. I don't know how this is going to look. Most animals have their jaws overlapped. Now I got to show you. His jaw is going to be 24. This might not have been the best animal to choose for the video, but we'll see if we can make it work. 14 wide. That big wide snarl open. I don't know how well this is going to look, but hopefully we'll, whoops. That's not going to be that wide. All right. Now, I'm going to move this up. That's not bad, actually. Now, in the picture, there's a significant gap, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how that's going to look. With a 3D model, I don't know if that's going to look good. Remember, you're not a slave to your picture. You do not have to follow it 100%. You're the artist here, and you are free to adjust whatever you need to make the thing actually look good. Let's align that to the head, click on the head, and to the middle. So what I'm saying is if you get done with some weird feature like this is a very strange feature for an animal. You can actually adjust it so it looks good. Let's make that transparent. You're not obligated to follow your drawing 100%. And I'm looking at this. You can see in my drawing I have a huge gap here, but dude, I think that might look a little bit weird. I don't like the way that looks at all now that I see it on the paper. This should be wider, I think. Holding down Alt. And the lower jaw is probably going to be a little bit skinnier than that upper jaw. All right, and then it's definitely not looking good. I don't like the looks of this at all. I'm actually going to move it. Yes, it's breaking the picture. I'm actually going to move that a little bit forward, just like that. All right, this guy has a pretty wide snout, and I'm going to put out my cone. You don't probably have to do this part. My cone is going to be 4 here, about 4 by 4, and then the height would be 7. No, excuse me. Yeah, that's for the small fang. The height is 7. So the lower fangs. Remember, we only model one of these. We'll copy it to the other one. I probably should have done the eyes first. 7. That up here. Make it transparent. It's almost like it's almost straightforward. Move it forward. And here we go. Duplicate. I'll make one for the other side too. That looks decent. Okay. And our big fang, the big one's 21 by 6. We can see that right here. 6 by 6. And hey, bear with me. I probably should have done the eyes and the ears first, because that's one that everybody has to do, but you can see I'm definitely not perfect at this, so let's just get this done. And a lot of times, until you get it done, it's not going to look right. And then when you put in these finishing details, like the fangs and the eyes and the ears, things will start coming together. Okay, now I look at that, I do want to actually move this back a little bit more and a little bit down. Okay, that fang is definitely not where it needs to be left and right. Duplicate, Control D, or you can press the button if you like. Okay, that looks pretty decent. You know what? Now I see this. Let's grab it all and make it not transparent. Now I see that. That doesn't look that bad, actually. I kind of like the way that looks. I think that looks decent. All right, so there we go. We got that part done. You know what? I'm going to grab everything that I'm happy with and put it on lockdown right now. Let's go back, grab it all, and make it transparent again. You can actually make things transparent and not while it's locked. All right, let's do the eyes. 4 by 7. So I measured my eyes at 4 by 7. So we'll go 7 length. 7 length. And 4 for the height. And wow, that is way too wide for an eye. We can't tell from our drawing, but we definitely want to make this significantly thinner. Now, that might work. Let's get our side view. And notice how I do things. I'll usually adjust this dimension. Let's make it transparent. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. For people who really want to do better than this and make it like go to the next level, you can actually make another shape. So you can move this in and you can make another shape that's bigger and cut a hole out for the eye socket and then put the eye in. For the simplicity of this video, I'm probably going to actually have to make these not transparent because this part's hard to do when it's transparent, actually. And now, since it's not transparent, you can actually see that that eye will be visible. Okay, once you get this eye where you want it, duplicate it, and we're going to move it over to the other side until it looks about the same setup as that one. That looks great. However, now I see that. I feel like my eyes should be up further, shouldn't they? They should both be up further. So I'll hold down Shift and move these to the front. See how many mistakes I'm making? It's just part of the game. You have to kind of adjust things. And also, they're a little bit too high, aren't they? Hold down Shift and grab both of them. Let's drop them down. So now that they're in a different part of the head, we're going to move them in a little bit. And these could be rotated as well. So you could kind of rotate these to match the contour of the face a little bit. Something like that. Now my tiger's starting to look pretty good. Let's get on to the ears, which is the final part of the head. And then we'll go in the next video, we'll do the tail. All right, look, the ears, mine are ovals. I'm going to show you guys, for you guys who have pointy ears, we use a cone, or I recommend very highly you consider using this shape. It's all the way at the bottom, and you have to click View More Shapes. It's a paraboloid. Paraboloid is basically, in math, there's parabolas, which is a graph of a quadratic equation. And then if you spin that around, you'd make a three-dimensional shape called a paraboloid. Here's how you do these ears. I'll do all of them. I'm going to use this one on mine. So what you do is you take duplicate, make a copy, and you move it out a little bit like this. See those two? And you're going to change the copy into a whole, and we group them together. And then we get a shape that looks more like an animal's ear. You know what? I recommend you make it a little bit thicker for 3D printing purposes so it can actually make that correctly. Okay, again, duplicate, offset it with your arrow keys, make it a whole, and combine them together in a union, group union. Okay, for mine, I'm going to duplicate this shape, move it over, and it hollows out the ear and it makes it look much more realistic, in my opinion. I don't know. Okay, you guys can use these ones. I'm not going to, because in my drawing, my ear looks like an oval. All right, let's put in our dimensions now that we've made the ear shape. 20 by 16. 20 tall is already there, and 16 wide. And I don't think it's going to be nearly that wide. Something like that, maybe. Now, there's a lot of overlap with the head. It looks like for this part, we could go transparent. I guess that would probably be a good idea. Let's make this transparent on. And we'll move that up. Okay, you can see it's actually way back where the neck overlaps. So let's make everything transparent here so we can really see it. On. I guess I have to turn it off and then on, don't I? Okay. And then these ears are probably, well, they're definitely tilted back a little bit in my drawing. So I'll tilt it back about like that. And let's look at it from this direction. I think these ears might be tilted out and down a little bit. Pretty cool. That looks decent. Let's take a look at it without transparency. Now I have it where I want it. Again, there's a lot of art. These details in, hey, that looks great. I like that. I think that looks pretty good. Now my drawing is definitely back a little bit further still. But actually, I think that looks pretty darn good. Let's move it out a little bit. I like that. That looks great. Now we're going to duplicate, move it over, and use the mirror command and flip it left and right. And then we want it to line up. Look at this little angle that it makes and the way it interacts with this neck. And move it over until this angle looks about the same. Get a nice straight top view. See, this is the advantage. See, if you have this on if you don't have your Flat view on, you can really get some distortion here that will make it hard to get this right. See this little arc right here? That looks about the same. That looks great. I'm going to put all this stuff, unlock, lock it again. Whoops. Okay. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me on that. We're going to go to the next video where we'll do the tail. In the final video, we'll adjust it and put a base at the bottom and then export it for 3D printing.